of digital health and UHC in their contexts. During Digital Health Week, civil society, private companies, government health ministries, and interested individuals are discussing the challenges and opportunities for digital health in their countries and regions. How far has digital health come? What barriers must still be overcome?
Our work on improving HIV rights and sexual and reproductive health and rights in Kenya, it is no longer possible to ignore the potential that digital health holds in improving access to health services and realizing the right to health.
YACMI, or the Indonesian Public Health Association, commits to working for the goal of universal health coverage through our 35,000 members. The time to champion digital technologies is in achieving health for all is now, and we will be hosting the 7th Annual Public Health Scientific Conference during this decade and bring together leaders from across Indonesia and promote digital health.
As we build a digitally enabled future, it's imperative that the voices of young people are not left out of the design, planning, and implementation of these interventions. Digital Health Week is an exciting opportunity for young people to showcase their digital health solutions, as we will be doing through the Humans of Digital Health campaign by Yet for Age.
The first Global Digital Health Week is being coordinated by Transform Health. We are a coalition of organizations committed to championing the role of digital technology and data to achieve universal health coverage by 2030.
We want to see the transformation of health systems to ensure that everyone has access to equitable, affordable, and quality healthcare by harnessing the potential of digital technologies whilst ensuring no one is left behind. This requires stronger political will, a clear health data governance framework grounded in human rights and equity, and increased and coordinated investments towards digital health.
So join us during Digital Health Week to champion health for all in the digital age. Hold discussions, make commitments, and amplify the role of digital health on your organization's website and on social media.
I'll take myself off mute. Hopefully everyone's seen that. And I will look for my cue, a thumbs up perhaps, if we are ready to begin this next panel. All right, I think I have officially received my virtual thumbs up. So thank you, first of all, everyone, for joining us, and welcome. And we can't begin without a very special thank you to our partners, our friends at Recainsa, and a huge congratulations to them on the first ever Foro de Salud Digital. So thank you, Recainsa, for having us here, and a very hearty congratulations. My name is Lauren Wall, and I want to tell everyone thank you, welcome, bienvenidos aos amigos brasileiros, que sejam bem-vindos. We have a great panel for you today. I'm very pleased to say that I'll be welcoming both colleagues and friends. So we will be looking at the role that networks play in exchanging best practice, learning experiences in digital health. I have the benefit of being a colleague and active participant in some of these networks that these wonderful panelists convene. So I'd like to take a moment to introduce them now. We have Dr. Sean Broomhead. He's the CEO of HISP South Africa and the co-founder of the African Center for eHealth Excellence, ACFE, and he's a long-term consulting collaborator with WHO. Christina Villela currently serves as the co-chair for the Global Digital Health Network. She is also a digital health technical advisor for John Snow International, JSI. Next, we have Jai Ganesh Udayashankaran. He's a senior manager for healthcare information technology and telehealth at Sri Satya Sai Central Trust in India. He's also a member of the governing committee for the Asia eHealth Information Network, AHIN. Last but not least, we have Jocelyn Caillas. Jocelyn, or Josie, as some of us are lucky to know her, is the current manager at the Central American Health Informatics Network, RECAINSA. She's also the CEO and co-founder at Discusión, a company dedicated to the application of information technology and digital transformation in social projects. So, panelists, welcome to this session. I'll ask each of our panelists some introductory questions to serve as an entry point for our discussion, for them to share their perspectives. We, of course, will have opportunities to hear from all of you, our audience, later on in this session. But Sean, if I can start with you, everyone here is representing a network. Each is quite unique, not just in its geography, but also the role that the network plays in the region. So can you tell us about African Center for eHealth Excellence, ACFE, and what you have learned facing Africa's unique obstacles and lessons that might be generalizable to some other regions?
Super. Thanks, Lauren, and good afternoon to everyone from a very warm Cape Town in South Africa. It's super to be on with colleagues. The last time we were face-to-face was almost exactly 2 years ago in Washington. And your question, Lauren, reminds me of 8 years ago in Geneva, probably about as frosty as a lot of Europe is right now. There was a meeting of the early WHO eHealth Technical Advisory Group, of which I was honored to be a member. And what I noticed looking around the room is, although there were a few Africans represented, we were learning about initiatives in a number of geographies about solidarity and consolidation of local efforts, and we didn't have something similar in Africa. So I joined up with two colleagues. The one is Dr. Ousmane Lee, our French colleague, Malian, who many of you will know, and Dr. Peter Nyasulu, an epidemiologist from Malawi. And the three of us founded ACFE as a way to start collaborating around obviously in those days, we talked about eHealth in Africa. And what we realized early on was we needed to engage directly with African health ministries. And so we wrote to every health ministry in Africa, and 10 responded and said their permanent secretaries would be part of our advisory board. And that got us off to our start. And what they emphasized with us is it's important that Africans should be shaping the policy direction for eHealth and digital health in Africa. And this is what we'd been hearing from other regions as well. And so that got us started. And we were encouraged to focus on the unique challenges of Africa, which were at the time, as they really are the same today, around connectivity, around affordability, where there's some very serious challenges to affordability of healthcare, and how one could use applications like mobile health. Mobile health was already in those days seeming to be a big way forward, and how we could start establishing collaborations with other African countries, but with the international community as well, but with a very clear African mandate. And so ACFE started sharing global successes and lessons applicable, and that led probably to the most recent being around COVID. So in the COVID crisis, what we've learned in engaging with good people on this panel is that there are lessons being learned all around the world. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. That's fantastic for us in Africa because we can take from what's happening elsewhere, but also we can share lessons with other countries. Probably the most specific recent example is around COVID vaccine initiatives, where in my day job, I lead the team at HISP South Africa, and we're the service provider now for Africa CDC to develop tools for tracking COVID vaccinations across all African countries. And what we're doing is we're leaning on the foundations that have been developed all around the world of strong interoperability tools, strong interoperability frameworks, working with FHIR and other techniques. And this is where really the lessons that we're learning in networks like are presented on this panel are really coming to the fore and allowing us to move very quickly to serve and to answer very serious challenges on the ground. And it's super to have those kinds of friends around the world to call on and to be able to share what we're doing too. But let me stop there, Lauren. Thanks for the question.
Sean, thanks so much. And I love that you've touched on both how ACFE came to be, what seems like a lifetime ago in terms of digital health, And of course, I agree. I think that we've seen a lot of lessons, but really, I feel crystallized during COVID, and continuing to see a lot emerge from the continent in terms of digital health that is widely applicable. Thank you. So I'd like to turn it to Christina. You represent actually a global network as opposed to a regional network, the Global Digital Health Network. Can you tell us a little bit about how the Global Digital Health Network holds space for exchanging best practices and experience in digital health, but across the globe?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Lauren, and thank you to Rikainsa for hosting this wonderful forum and session. So we also, like ACFI and many others, have deep roots and started out kind of smaller as the mHealth working group back in 2009. And as the field of mobile health grew into the field of digital health, and that we were not just using mobile technologies to support improving health outcomes, we became the Global Digital Health Network. And so as the network has grown and evolved, we've now become a network of more than 4,000 implementers, policymakers, government representatives, researchers, innovators, private sector individuals from across the globe, from over 130 countries, who are all together on what is a very active listserv. So when we talk about who the network is, it's really our members of our listserv who have signed up because they want to be part of this broader conversation of sharing best practices on digital health, of exchanging experiences, and not just best practices, but even things that haven't gone well and lessons learned, and what can we do better the next time. And so how the network kind of has, I would say, like 4 pillars through which we kind of hold space for our members to be able to exchange these best practices and lessons learned and experiences across the globe. So the first, and one that I am particularly excited about at this moment, is our annual Global Digital Health Forum, which will be taking place next week. So if you all are interested in going to another forum next week, we are having the forum between December 6th through 8th. And so the forum is really a chance for our network to come together annually in what used to be an in-person space. And now we, due to COVID, have transitioned to a virtual space, which I think is further served to kind of grow who is able to participate in the forum. So it's a 3-day conference. We have a number of panels, keynotes, plenaries, workshops, etc. So we're really excited for that to be happening this year, again, in a virtual setting. And then our next pillar is our monthly meeting. So the network hosts a monthly meeting hosted by a member of our advisory council, but bringing together voices from across the network, sharing on pressing topics in digital health. And those are opportunities to kind of start conversations that sometimes then continue back onto the listserv. I know last month we had a really, really exciting discussion on converting in-person trainings to blended learning, which I think, or distance learning, which I think many people are going through right now. And the conversation could have continued for hours. And so I'm hoping that we'll bring that to the listserv or bring that to another monthly meeting or another side meeting to continue that conversation. Again, our listserv is really another place that is very active in being open for people to share information. We've seen really a big uptick in the requests for what is the global guidance, or what is the current guidance on this XYZ digital solution, how to best practices for what to include in an EMR, what tools have you used for a certain use case, and even just dissemination of job postings and webinars. And then also just having some discussions around kind of how the field of digital health should be moving. Last year, I think it was a little over a year ago, some of us got into a very long discussion on how digital health intersects with climate change. And then that became a plenary session at the Global Digital Health Forum. So they all kind of tie together. And then I would say our last pillar is really our communications and knowledge management. So in the coming year, we're definitely looking to see how we can really explore knowledge management practices to make all the wealth of information that is already available through the network via our monthly meetings, our listserv posts, kind of more accessible to those who are looking for information on a variety of digital health topics. And I know my first answer, but I do just want to mention that the Global Digital Health Network has an advisory council of about 20 different organizations, global health organizations, as well as several of our regional digital health networks here. And so we're really honored to be supported and guided by such a wonderful group of digital health experts. So I'll turn it back over to you, Lauren.
Thanks, Christina. And you took the words out of my mouth, letting our audience know that the Advisory Council for Global Digital Health Network is in fact represented by some of the people on this panel. So thank you. What I think is wonderful is both you and Sean have brought us back to digital health, one of digital health's ancestors, mHealth. And remembering at the beginning of my career in digital health, that is what I had been working on. And now Global Digital Health Network is convening monthly panels on the use of AI and big data, on blended learning, on security. And so just really reflecting even through the network where we have come in the field. So thank you so much, Christina. So speaking of someone that has really seen our trajectory in the field, Jai, I'd love to turn it to you now. I'm pretty sure that the Asia Health Information Network, AHIN, is in its 10th year. And if I've gotten that correct, congratulations, first of all. There's no small question in this, but I am wondering if you can share with us what's the secret to success. How has AHIN been so successful with such longevity?
Thanks, Lauren, and thanks, Rikainsa, to include us in this interesting panel and be part of Digital Health Week together with Rikainsa. I think it's a very exciting journey, Lauren and friends. Even prior to AHIN, we did have, like, a couple of us in the leadership of AHIN were involved in another network, which consisted of mostly research projects on e-health. So that network came out of support from IDRC Canada, International Development Research Center, and that's known as PanAsia, Pan-Asian Network for E-Health Adoption and Application. So myself and Alvin were part of that. And then when PanAsia winded up the operations in 2010, we were still looking for ways and means to actually have a 2.0 version of it. And then that's how then AHIN came into picture in 2011, when there was a HIS conference that happened in Vietnam, where 6 of the, our early leaders, like, they got together and AHIN was born. And since then, it has been a very interesting journey. Like, initially, we started with mainly focusing on capacity building, training, predominantly that. But then over the years, we evolved, because training alone doesn't get you everything. So we can continue to build capacities for years, but then what? So, and then how it is used. Like, for example, we had very interesting learnings that it is not just sufficient to train a bunch of people. And then unless otherwise you have a re-entry plan for them to work for their countries. Otherwise, if they do not find an opportunity to work within their countries, they will just move. And then not only that, like, the investments will actually go waste. So we started actually, we also learned. I always believe network is not just a bunch of people. Network also means a lot of connectivity, and then this group of people that is shared, that should be sort of common. That is like each one gets something out of it. Each one usually looks what is in it for themselves. So unless otherwise we have this kind of a shared value, it's difficult to sustain. And then, like, from predominantly training and capacity building, we also started working with development partners and the ministries of health. We always felt that we should actually align our plans with the national health plans or national e-health strategies of the countries, because it is their need. Unless otherwise we involve them and then work together with them, these solutions or investments are not going to be sustainable. So we started actually recently, like we also started working with multiple international organizations. Like for example, today AHIN is represented in a variety of international forums, be it Broadband Commission, or working with other partners. For example, Foundation PFAB in France, which work in the Francophone Asia and Africa. And then we also work with other networks like ACFI, then Recainsa, as well as Global Digital Health Network, which Christina pointed out that we are actually part of the advisory council, as well as in fact, also joined the board as the partnerships, as a member of the partnerships board. So we have been continuously working together and evolving. So that is, I would say that, it's a secret, I would say, the recipe for longevity. We have to evolve with the times. So, and then more recently, we have been working together also with the countries for convergence missions. Basically, we try to get together a variety of stakeholders, because usually the Ministry of Health alone cannot do certain things. So, for example, working on enterprise architecture. This involves multiple other ministries also, or multiple sectors to come together. So AHIN becomes, usually people also look for a trusted source where they would like to sort of take the help and then convene the meeting. So AHIN has managed to get the trust of the ministries of health and other stakeholders in the region. So that, I would say, is that involves a lot of work, that has involved a lot of effort, and that has taken time. Now we are actually being invited by the ministries of health in the region to convene such convergence workshops. Basically, we try to bring together diverse stakeholders together to chart out the national health strategies or the investments to going forward. So we are at a stage where I would say that we are even able to influence policies or take the network approach to digital health across to our major donors and international partners. I would like to stop here now, and then if you have more questions, please, you are welcome. I hope I have answered your question.
Thanks, Jai. You certainly have, especially that your very final comment, the trusted partner. I think that is definitely, from my perspective, and I know shared from the perspective of many others, one of AHIN's biggest accomplishments in these past 10 years, that AHIN is a trusted partner. And I appreciate your perspective on partnership, not just between network members, between the network and others, and fostering partnership between others. So thank you for that. And to the person that's helping bring us all together in partnership today, Jocelyn, before we move into the group discussion, I would like to turn a question to you. This panel certainly all knows, and perhaps our audience knows, that Recainsa actually started as a volunteer effort. And I'm hoping that you could share with us, reflecting that you have brought all of us together on this stage today over multiple days of programming in this first forum. How did Recainsa undertake this process from starting as this volunteer effort to now one of the leading regional health networks in the region and globally?
Thank you, Lauren. Well, first of all, for me, it's an honor to share this virtual space with such great professionals and experts in digital health and networking around the world. Well, for those who do not know about the work that Recainsa is doing in order to pull the digital health agenda, not only in Latin America and the Caribbean, but globally, we are a very young organization. We were born in 2013 with the great vision of two professionals, Alejandro Benavides. He's watching us. He's here in this session, and Daniel Otsoy, that he's participating in another event in the frame of the Digital Health Week and all the celebration that we are having globally. So we were born with the intention to have a space where professionals from the health and technology sector could join to share experiences and best practices in digital health. Then, and Daniel mentioned this in the opening speech. In 2015, we worked in our first strategic plan, but we were young and naive and very ambitious. And obviously we learned from that experience. And 2019, that is when I personally met you all during the 2019 Global Digital Health Forum. We worked very hard in order to have a document that could be like our Bible. I mean, and we have been focusing all our efforts in three main areas. One, in the strengthening of the data governance in a region. Two, in the strengthening of the capacities of professionals and technicians working on the health sector and the technology sector from a region. And a third objective is to create spaces such as this one that we are enjoying today to share from other organizations like the ones that you are representing. So we barely became a NGO. I mean, we have been working as volunteers all these years, and it has been thanks to all the passion, the effort, and the commitment that we have with our region and with the digital health, because I know that all of us believe that through digital, that through a real transformation of the digital health sector, we can change lives and we can have a better place for all.
Thanks, Jocelyn, and congratulations again. I can't forget that phrase, passion, efforts, and commitment, something shared by all of you on this call, and definitely displayed by Recainsa. So we'll move on to a group discussion. I know my panelists are very polite, but I also know that they are good friends, and so really looking forward to hearing all of you interact. To our audience, while our panelists are discussing, I invite you to use the question and answer button at the bottom of your screen. If you would like to submit any questions to our panelists, we'll have time for those towards the end. And you can submit those questions in Spanish or in English, whatever is your preference. So we can all pretend that it's a few years ago and we're all sitting around a table together at an in-person event, but I'm hoping, Christine, I can actually start this question with you, and everyone else, please feel to chip in. It's not a few years ago. COVID has played a huge role in digital technology, the application of digital technology, the role it has in our health systems, but also in the way that we are all able to interact and participate in sharing of best practice and experience. And so I am hoping you can just tell us a little bit about, for Global Digital Health Network and for everyone else, how has COVID really changed the role of your network?
Yeah, thanks, Lauren. I think the rise of COVID and kind of just the way the world has rapidly transformed digitally and otherwise over the last 2 years has really, I think, change. I don't know if I'd say change, but it's definitely, I think, emphasized the role of networks like ours. And so I think two big changes that I noticed for the Global Digital Health Network were one, I think this one's the most obvious, but we had to shift our events to being virtual events currently. And I think that, so we, as I mentioned, we have the Global Digital Health Forum annually. And prior to COVID, our last in-person meeting had about 700 people. And our first virtual event last year had over 2,000 people from over 110 countries. And so I think that just goes to show that we will always need to be virtual in some capacity. And so moving forward, we bring more hybrid events to ensure that as a global network that we are truly being inclusive of our global audience and of our global membership. I think a second big change has been the increase in activity in our listserv. We can't even keep up. It's a moderated queue. I don't know if any of you all, I don't know if any of the other networks have moderated queues, but our people can send messages and we approve them. And we just sometimes can't keep up with just the number of messages that are coming through. People asking just, hey, do you know what is the best way to do vaccine certificates, or what supply, how are you using the DHIS2 COVID-19 module? And you'll get 10 answers within 24 hours. And so I think that just goes to show how important these networks are in being a space where everybody can come together. It kind of levels the playing field, that people who are new to the space, who've been in the space for 10, 20 years can all come together and just share experiences. And because it's on email, it's some people say it's more intimidating, but I think it almost is somewhat less intimidating because you can just ask questions and share experiences and all participate. And so I think that is how COVID has really kind of emphasized the role of the Global Digital Health Network.
Thanks so much, Christina. And I wonder if any of our other colleagues are maybe experiencing the same or perhaps different changes with the interactions of your members or the role of your network during this time. You want to comment on that?
So Lauren, I'm just going to jump in here. I'm having video problems, but hopefully you can hear my voice. COVID has really been such a strange time, hasn't it? So in some ways we're so much further apart, but in others we're so much closer together. And I've definitely felt that togetherness, much more interactions than ever before. Even though we were across Africa, we're separated across such a massive geography, we were still working remotely in pre-COVID times. But now the remoteness doesn't seem to be as much of a barrier as it was before. And there's much more an eagerness and an interest in the digital collaboration. And I think that's something that's been a fantastic benefit that's accelerated under COVID. Thanks.
Thank you, Sean. So I'm actually wondering at this point, Christina places about the network, Global Digital Health Network, allows people to connect with their 4,000 closest colleagues. Really highlights that ability for people to remove trepidation or fear of embarrassment or looking novice. It really is that very safe space, something very special. And all of you have created something incredibly special in your networks, and perhaps starting with Jocelyn, but with the rest of our panelists, please unmute and comment as you wish. Jocelyn, what is it that you think that makes digital health networks so special? And I must comment on this question that Jocelyn and I actually met at a network event and have been friends ever since. And so I think that also is that proof. But what is it, Jocelyn? What makes it special about networks in digital health?
Thank you, Lauren. I think that the clue here is collaboration. Definitely. I mean, you know that all of you have been mentors of Recainsa, especially of Daniel and I, and it's amazing the power of collaboration. It's like if you can replicate that, I mean, it's amazing. And we are trying to do that in our own environments, within our organization. In the case of Recainsa is not only a network of individuals, but of organizations as well. And it's amazing how we have grown in terms of spreading, you know, the work that we are doing from the networking. We truly believe in the power of networking. And you can see that through our digital channels. I mean, we were born from a Facebook group. And now we are more than 6,000 professionals that are bringing their expertise, their experiences, that are trying to find from all the content that we produce, and lots of that content comes from the work that you guys are doing from your own network. So that is the power, that is the real power of the networking, of this big network of networks that we have built since 2019. I do remember that moment when I got to the 2019 Digital Health Forum, and I was invited. I mean, I wasn't in the agenda, but I was invited to participate in a panel of women working on digital health. And I remember that I was so nervous. But I took advantage of those 2 minutes to share one of the biggest goals that we had as organization. And that goal was to have a program for women working on digital health projects in our region. And two years from that moment, we have our first program for women leaders on digital health. We got 30 women in this program. We gave 20 scholarships for women from Central America and the Andean region. And it's amazing how the networking has gotten from there to here.
Yeah, and I just like to, Jocelyn, that's amazing. And I remember meeting you and Lauren at that forum, and just the excitement amongst everybody meeting there and kind of, you know, networking ourselves, networking our networks. But I think something that's also really special about the digital health networks is that they give us the opportunity to walk the walk. And what I mean by that is, we in the digital health field, something I find really special about the field is that ever since I've been involved with the field, it's been a very critical field. It really reflects on, are we actually breaking down silos? Are we being inclusive of the communities that we're working with? Are they involved in this work? And it's not to say that we've always done that right, but there's a lot of reflection on that and trying to kind of correct the course. And so there's principles, the digital principles, the principles for digital development, for example. Some of those are, you know your ecosystem and be collaborative and share resources, use open source when possible. And so I feel like the networks give us the opportunity to actually live out those principles of being collaborative, of knowing what exists, of not reinventing the wheel. And so I think that is a really big part of why our networks exist and why they're so special.
Maybe I can jump in here, Lauren, there is time.
Please.
Okay. I just remember we had some initial discussions with Rikainsa just ahead of the Global Digital Health Network 2019 with Genial. And then we all actually worked together for the combined panel or network of networks. So there was a great experience, and that's where like I got to meet with Lauren in person, though I know her a bit earlier on the Digital Health and Interoperability Working Group, but I met her in person. And then we had great discussions with Sean, then Daniel and Uslin, and then we started working on the mandate for the network of networks. And then I remember like I think it was December 12 or 11, I think we formed the group, the WhatsApp group for the network of network leads. And then it has been a great experience actually sharing these experiences or asking them some important questions whenever like we needed some help or we wanted them to participate in events or some quick questions among the leads. So that has been also been very helpful personally to, I think, to most of the networks as well.
Thanks very much. It looks like Sean dropped for a moment, but just rejoined us. Sean, are you with us?
Yes, I am, Lauren. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and it's perfect timing, Sean, because I have a question I've been wanting to ask you, and I think our other panelists will also want to respond, but I've been dying to ask you this question. Thinking back to that beginning of ACFI, mHealth at the time, in the past of ACFI, I'm wondering if there have been pivotal moments. We keep talking about how COVID has really played this pivotal moment. Is it that? Are there other ones? Have there been pivotal moments in the last 5 years, 10 years that has really shaped the role that ACFI or any of these other networks have been playing in your regions?
Yeah, fantastic question, Lauren. Thank you. And I think I'll talk about 3 moments, and they all happened outside of ACFI, but there were things happening elsewhere that just we were able to then catalyze on and work with. And the one was evolution of global goods, whether it's FHIR as a communication standard or the DHIS2, but just the incredible maturation of global goods over this period has given us such a wealth of tools to work with, which just weren't there at that level of maturity before. And I found that really made it so much easier within our region. The second was the forming of the network of networks, funnily enough. So to discover the wonderful work happening with our brothers and sisters in AHIN, to benefit from the extraordinary leadership around Christina and some of her colleagues, and for us to start sort of leaning on each other, and then with Rakainsa and them as the sort of newest group, and to see that incredible warmth and energy and that sort of phenomenal drive that they're bringing, that for us was pivotal and made a big difference. And I think the third point is perhaps the newest, and that is the publishing of the Global Digital Health Strategy. I think there's something special around that document that makes it just a bit easier for us to have a common language, a common set of priorities, a common way of describing those priorities and a framework around it that just makes some of the difficult conversations that we need to sometimes have with ministries of health a bit easier. And I'd love to hear what the other colleagues in the room have to say. Thanks, Lauren.
I agree with Sean, especially on the global strategy for digital health 2020 to 2025 from WHO. And it also, in the sense, like it also actually outlines the role for the networks. Like it does mention about regional and international digital health networks. And then it says that the global strategy on digital health will enhance and complement the work of the existing and newly created digital health network. This is something that I found it very interesting in the strategy. And then also out of the 4 strategic objectives in the strategic objective 1, that is to promote global collaboration and advance the transfer of knowledge on digital health. It does mention the role of digital health networks and partnerships. And then also the second strategic objective of advancing implementation of national digital health strategies. Again, It talks about sharing good practices, lessons learned from other countries and the international community, and using the media of regional and global digital health networks. So it does outline a role, a clear role for the digital health networks, that is we. Thank you.
I agree with all of these. I think many of these are also pivotal moments for the Global Digital Health Network. But I think one that has really impacted our network recently was kind of the critical reflection that the international development space has been having on diversity, equity, and inclusion of our work, of who's leading our work, of who's driving our work, of who's participating. And I think that we took that very seriously. Actually, back when Lauren was co-chair with me of the network. It really, we wanted the network to pause and critically reflect on how, was our governance structure reflecting our membership? The network, as I mentioned, started in 2009 as a group of implementers in Washington, D.C., working on mHealth solutions and, sharing best practices and experiences on that. To now we are this global network of 4,000 people from over 130 countries, sharing experiences on all kinds of topics within digital health. And, reflecting on does our governance reflect our global membership? And at that point, we started some surveys with our members to kind of bring up the dialogue, but a few key things that came out of that were broadening our governance structure. And so that's how, we recognized that we needed more diversity within our advisory council. And we invited the regional networks to join our governance structure. And we're not stopping there. That was our first step. We wanted to have a broader perspective before we made bigger changes to the network. That has also impacted how we solicit information for our programming. For example, for the annual forum, the last 2 years now, we've accepted abstracts in both Spanish and French and have provided opportunities speaking in those languages to present at the forum. And this year, just signing those contracts, really excited that we will be able to have translation of some of our bigger sessions into French. And so that's just some of the ways in which we are reflecting on how to be more inclusive, which I think has been kind of a more global conversation that has impacted our network.
Thank you three so much. Something that Sean mentioned that I think we'd just be remiss to not talk about is that theme of common language. So Sean mentioned how the strategy provided a common language when working with multiple ministries. And I think we'd be remiss not to mention that within each of your networks, the diversity of countries represented in your regions, the diversity of stakeholders, the diversity of stage of digital development or digital transformation is enormous, not to mention things like language and other factors. I'm wondering if we can close this with a last question about, we've talked a lot about learning between networks, but given the diversity of your regions, what are some of the key lessons you've learned between countries in your regions? And I'm not sure, maybe Jai, maybe you can start us off with this one.
Thanks, Lauren. I think it's a very, very important question. Like, we always felt like it's no one solution probably fits all, though the problem areas or the pain points and digital health may seem to be the same, because every country has a different level of digital maturity or the governance structure or the political support for digital transformation. So we have to probably, though we may have some, a common framework or an approach, but then we need to sort of work together with them and then make things happen. So that has been our learning as well. And that's the reason, like, behind AHIN actually tried to get diverse stakeholders in the country, not just the Ministry of Health, but most likely the Ministry of Planning and Finance, through whom the grants usually come through, and then the Ministry of ICT or IT or Telecom. It depends on the country. And more recently, some of the countries also have a new Ministry of Digital Economy. So working together with them is something that makes things happen. We need to have, because that's also the power of the network. It's not just a network of different professionals from different domains, but also within the country, how we bring together these different stakeholders as a force multiplier. That actually helps us to bring not only to coordinate and collaborate, but also to have a coherent approach towards digital transformation in health. That's how I would say that it's one of the recipes from Ehin's experience. And to quote our chair, Dr. Bunchai's famous words, friends help friends. When friends help each other, another friend will help us when we need the help. So that's how friends. He uses the friends analogy. So we are all basically friends come together with a shared value and a goal beyond our routine work and professional affiliation or anything like that.
Thanks so much, Jai. And I did want to mention that we have a question for the audience before we wrap up. And this question, I think, really would speak to the diversity within each region, within each country, within each stakeholder group. It's a big question. It's about disinformation, one of the biggest and most complex challenges, misinformation in the population regarding specific issues. So I'm wondering, in any of your work, are you encountering proposals or frameworks on how networks can contribute to minimize the impact on disinformation using technology as an ally? Jocelyn, you want to take a first pass at that?
Yes, all of us know that misinformation has been one of the greatest issues during the last months in the frame of COVID-19. But I mean, you all spoke about equity and inclusion. And in the case of Recaínsa, working in a region that is very complex. For you to have an idea, in Latin America, we have more than 420 languages. In Guatemala, we have more than 23 languages. So the work that we have to do in order to reach all the population and to bring more organizations that can help us to strengthen our work is a very big challenge. But we are on the path to do that. So, and I know that with the lessons learned from our biggest siblings that are your networks, we could start working on the strategies that can benefit all the Latin American population.
Jocelyn, thanks so much. And I know that none of our panelists are specialists in disinformation, but I think that ties exactly into the other points of having our different stakeholders to tie into. And that's really what's come out of this panel, I feel, is the strength and diversity of stakeholders within the region and between our networks. So that's about all the time we have. But before we go, a big thank you to our panelists. And I'm wondering if each of you can let our audience know where they can find you if they would like to connect and learn more. Maybe Christina, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I'll drop the Global Digital Health Network's Twitter and website into the chat, and I'll also put my personal Twitter in case anybody wants to get in touch with me directly.
Thanks. Jai, where can folks find more information and connect with Ehin?
Yeah, thanks, Lauren. I will be sharing the website of AHIN as well as my personal profile. I will do that.
Thanks, Jocelyn. We're already all at your table, but how can we find out more information about
everywhere? Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, as Recaínsa or Red Centroamericana de Informática en Salud / Central American Health Informatics Net. Thank you.
And Sean, I see you put acfi.org and Aetna.org in the chat. Thank you so much. I hope that our audience does take the opportunity to connect with you all. And I want to thank everyone, both our panelists and our audience, for joining us today. There are some great sessions coming up the rest of the day, including one coming up next on knowledge management and research in digital health. So everyone, thank you. Enjoy the rest of the programming today.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.